I thought I'd make this follow-up video uh, just to show the health of my device and also the possible pinning or engaged hacking threats in the area. So there you have it. So you see here, my device has not been rooted, but I have a tablet and another inferior smartphone that have been rooted, and they were. This was indicated to me from the same app and the same page here, but instead of that icon being green, it was red, and then the text indicated that it had been rooted shortly after the Comcast cable man left after installing the cable box. But while he was here, I made a video of him hacking my device and tampering with the operating system of my inferior smartphone. But apparently he had rooted my tablet before that, right before I woke up, shortly after he arrived. What's amazing is I had the tablet off before I went to bed, and then when I woke up, both devices were on. But with the smart phone, he was actually well, what was he doing? It showed in the top notification that something about the operating system, which for that device is Lollipop 5.1, and I did actually take a screenshot of it, but then apparently it ended up missing. But I do have a screenshot of this certificate that was issued for the tablet showing that the device had been rooted. So I assure you, I'm studying all of this, but it's not my suit, really. I've begun to learn about telecommunications and all this internet stuff and gadgetry late in life, within the past 2 years. So though I've read about how to root a device, and from what I've read consistently, it requires usually a desktop computer to assist in transferring the new operating system to the device, or via an exchange of the old operating system. But there are apps out there that claim that they can root a device without the assistance of a PC. So desktop. So apparently possible for someone to remotely root um, another device with their own handheld device, for that matter. Um, People often root their devices so that they can have more control of the governed um, controls um, of their smart device, which are not made available to um, the everyday user who can't root their devices to do so. But apparently, consistently, what I've read is once you root the device, you've also compromised the security protections on those devices as well, which makes them more susceptible to virus and malware and hacking. So people who root their devices for more control of their device apparently also commit to more maintenance and more security protection and protocols to maintain the condition of their device from becoming hacked or infected. So, hey, if they know what they're doing, it's their device. But I would never do that. So, anyway. Oh, okay. Well, and then, by coincidence, earlier today, I tried to create an account here, and I put in the password, and it said that the password that I came up with was appropriate and a strong one. And then when I went to finalize the initiation of that account for Norton Security, it kept rerouting me back to the app. And so, as you can see there, I attempted to, well, it shows my attempt here. It remembers my attempt anyway, via my Google account, Gmail, by which this app is associated with. So I'm going to attempt right now to put in the password that I remember. And let's see if it works. So, just like I explained to you of what happened earlier, it redirected me back to this app. And as you see, I'm not signed in. So, I'm all for the responsibility of conducting due diligence of reasoning, examination, and research critical thinking, all of that, to come to a rational and logical and least severe or suspicious conclusion uh, um, in the form of a burden of proof, um, or even a theory for that matter. I believe that I'm working in the direction of establishing a burden of proof um, to show that my devices and my online accounts are consistent targets um, of advanced technology associated with what law enforcement, local law enforcement of various states, including the state of Michigan here, um, are known to routinely use um, against targeted individuals and their targeted devices. And of course, it makes perfect sense. The targeted individual is going to want to publicize what they're experiencing, because when they go to the law enforcement directly, they're given the runaround. Um, they're um, they're they're referred to their doctor for assessment uh, and possibly a change of medication, or whatever they can do that minimalize and rationalize the circumstances that you present to them. Um, Even with proof, this has been my experiences, or my consistent experience here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, with the Ann Arbor Police Department. And so um, I guess what I'm doing now is making sure that I have enough significant proof um, to present to a higher authority of law enforcement. I believe that would be the FBI, but I have to read the law to be certain of that. In addition to um, the Ann Arbor Police Department, so that there's some oversight of their handling of the case, which most likely will be one about their conduct as suspects. So okay. So another app I want to use here is this one. So for this, I have to turn on location, and I'll tell you. I'll show you something about location before I show you this app. All right. With location, you have some choices. I consistently choose the middle choice, which is use Wi-Fi and mobile networks to estimate location. It's not necessary to use GPS if you're in a familiar urban environment and setting. The mobile network is perfectly fine and capable of ascertaining information of placement and displacement. But what these hackers are consistently doing is, no matter how many times I choose this middle option, when I go back to check on it at any interval of time more than um, 30, 40 minutes. They've changed the setting to the GPS network, which though gives you a more accurate location information, either of the actual device itself or locations of other places, but it uses more energy and therefore more battery power. But it also somehow aids in the hacking technology that I believe that I'm experiencing. And so, that's to say that not only is this Stingray equipment capable of connecting in one direction to the device via Bluetooth, via Wi-Fi, via cell phone, 3G and 4G and 4G LTE signal, to gain access and control of the device and the apps on it. But in another route, it can work, or seems to be able to work, with GPS technology, which can aid in the triangulation of the location of the device, but it also seems to enhance the overall powerful signal of this hacking technology. And so I've noticed more significant denial of service, not only with the apps and the internet, but with the actual physical functioning system components of my smart device. And this one in particular, when I devil may care, or in experimentation, leave the GPS network high accuracy function on. And so, in summary, hackers in general, but especially law enforcement, have even stronger and more comprehensive control of your device and its ability to make calls, to send and receive text messages, and to upload and download from the internet service. And something that is strongly suggesting of what I'm explaining to you right now is this here, this Calcom IZAD function. It says low power location estimation. Low power GPS signals and Wi-Fi signals, or cell phone signals, or cell phone internet signals, they work in a very stealth manner in that they can activate your ports of entry to your device. So that would include ports that are connected to Bluetooth antenna and the Wi-Fi antenna, and the oscillating 4G LTE, 4G and 3G signal. And so these ports, are gateways to allow information to be downloaded onto your device, and also to have information taken from your device, or upload it from your device if you're doing it by your own free will. And so if you read this, the policies and terms of this, there is language in here that specifically outline law enforcement's use of this service. It's been a while since I read it, but I remembered it. So right here, does Kelcom share the information it collects? You agree that we may disclose the information we collect from your device to our vendor service providers or affiliates within the Kelcom group of companies, including Kelcom, Atheros Incorporated and Kelcom Technologies Incorporated, to perform a business, personal, or technical support function for us, not you, for them, to respond to judicial processes or to provide information to law enforcement agencies or emergency responders, or in connection with an investigation as permitted or required by law with your consent, or with others for our business purposes if the information does not identify you or could be used to identify you. In the event that our company, division, or substantially all of its assets are acquired, the information we collect may be one of the transferred assets. I mean, how does that read to you? I'm just going to point out here, because I could dissect every clause in this run-on sentence, but as I was explaining in my previous video about law enforcement often deceiving judges to obtain warrants for this technology that they can't describe in detail to judges. Its construction or how it would be used. The judges are given general information about it and how it'll be used, and then somehow they're presented with some circumstance that is supposed to rise to the level of probable cause that a crime has or will be committed, in which a judge determines if this form of surveillance with this kind of advanced equipment is relevant and lawfully warranted to be granted a warrant to conduct it. But notice how, okay, one, to our vendors, service providers, or affiliates within the Kelcom group or companies, including Kelcom Technologies, and so forth, to businesses, professionals, technical support function for us. Well, I mean, right there, that's real general. I mean, it's not specific enough reasons as to why they would expose information obtained from this service to professionals or business interests on their behalf for their purpose and benefit. Technical support function, okay, that kind of makes sense. But then here, to respond to judicial processes or to provide information to law enforcement agencies or to emergency responders. Okay, okay, or in connection with an investigation as permitted or required by law. Well, the thing is, okay, a judicial process, well, that's formal, and any information about an individual would be obtained from an orderly process of issuing a subpoena for that information. So that sounds reasonable. But then it goes further to separate a judicial process from another reason that they would offer information that is obtained from this service about your device. And that is, it says, or to provide information to law enforcement agencies. Notice that it doesn't say, or to provide information to law enforcement agencies that present a warrant. So right there, it's the way a lawyer would read it. It's legalese. This is obviously a policy of some sort, privacy policy, and so it defines no conditions or specifics to govern under what circumstances and to what extent they would provide information to law enforcement agencies. And then it goes further to say, or emergency responders. Okay, fine. Or in connection with an investigation. Okay, but it doesn't say in connection with an investigation conducted by law enforcement or a court. It just says in general or in connection with an investigation, which means that I guess a private detective, for that matter, who hasn't sworn an oath to civil duty, could present to them his job of an investigation. And according to this, if you elect the service, then you are agreeing to these terms, these very general and vague terms that read like loopholes. But I would imagine that law enforcement specifically would take advantage of this clause here, or in connection with an investigation. Right? So they've already established a standard here, right within the writing, that they want you to agree to releasing information about your device that's obtained by this service to any and every circumstance that could be connected with an investigation. It's not to be read to be associated with all the rest of all of this. It's not to be read as to be associated with the information to law enforcement agencies. There's an or there that separates information to law enforcement agencies and to circumstances in connection with an investigation. It's law. Now, remember, it's not common sense that gives you the liberty to assume. But then it does end number two, the number two clause with as permitted or required by law. But the laws are different, not only in every state of the United States of America, but Sometimes they're different within different counties, for that matter. And so this does not prescribe a specific and distinctive protecting process that requires distinctive legal power to justify sharing the information obtained by this service from your device with law enforcement agencies, emergency responders, or in connection with an investigation in general. It's not written well. It's not written legally sound for the consumer's protection. It's written to be legally how do you say, forgiving and supporting of this agency's service to be rendered not only to you as a consumer using a device along with this service, but also to render this information to businesses or professionals in general, or law enforcement, or emergency responders, or investigators, to provide them a service as well. And so, anyway, I think I've articulated that well enough. Then it looks like it goes here to say, under availability and compliance with law, that this IZAT is not available in all countries, and we make no representation that IZAT is appropriate or available for use in any particular location. We make no guarantees to you in relation to the availability or uptime of IZAT, and are not obligated to provide any maintenance, technical, or other support for IZAT. And it goes on to speak about Korea. To protect user data privacy and security, we apply strict authentication procedures and will not normally make any data available except as required by law, subject to due legal process and authentication, such as warrants, court orders, and similarly strict procedures. If allowed by law, we reserve the right to request reimbursement for our reasonable costs associated with access request. So right there, they've just confirmed what I read to you and critically reasoned with you to be loopholes under their does Calcom share the information it collects paragraph. And so they meant to mitigate or to protect themselves in their attempt to give you as little protection as possible while giving them as much authority and privilege as they could possibly convince you that they should have to handle your information and to give it to whomever serves their interest. But also to courts and for emergency purposes. And they've done this with the tricky wording here in access and data integrity. First, Okay, I'll just read the whole first sentence again. To protect user data privacy and security, we apply strict authentication procedures and will not normally make any data available except as required by law. They will not normally make any data available except as required by law. Normally, that is the loophole, which is a reiteration of what I read up here in a broader, more articulate description of their policy. But it doesn't go on to further explain to you under what exceptional circumstances would they make any data available outside of the requirements of law. So up here, how does ISAT protect your privacy? ISAT uses a variety of security measures to store and transmit location information. In addition, we do not permanently store the location information we receive with your software ID. Software ID is they're referring to the built-in programming that makes the phone work, not the apps necessarily. But it can, in fact, include the apps. Because the built-in programming on your device is in the form of apps. They're called system apps. So there's system apps, and then there's apps that you download from the Google Play Store. So all of those apps have ID. So any of those apps that has access to your or usage of your location service via your location antenna, by giving those apps permission to access your location service, if you're also using it with this ISAT service, they collect information not only from the device hardware abilities, but also from the apps abilities to detect your location. And if they can obtain the software ID, then they can obtain your usage of that software, which means they can obtain, if it's a system software, there's that noise. Right when I was about to explain to you what specific information that they can get from your device, which could give a law enforcement agency or a hacker community almost complete control of your device and your online accounts. He turned that on. I don't know why. Maybe he's trying to log me out of this page, but or maybe he's trying to perform some kind of hack on my device in the background while I'm reading this to you. Regardless, I'm not paranoid. I'm vigilant, observant, and very suspicious of that strange, intermittent, synchronized, significantly loud enough static noise that can't be associated with any other household appliance that I've seen or heard of or experienced personally in my 40 years of living. It sounds like an instrument that you would associate with in a hospital or an industrial setting. And it's that loud, to carry through the floor. um, and past, my ceiling. Um, anyway, okay, um, and just be cognizant of it. It'll cut off. It doesn't run consistently for some reason. Oh, I guess I'll mention too. This machine um, that produces the same noise has followed me to, let's see, one, um, two, three, four locations that I've temporarily stayed at for a few months at a time. Over the course of the past 2 years, that I've had pejorative and controversial interactions with local law enforcement, and especially those with the Ann Arbor Police Department and the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department and the University of Michigan Police Public Safety Department. So it's followed me. This I've been visiting here now, near a month, and this instrument was started to make this noise. I would say about 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago. So it wasn't here for a whole 2 to 3 weeks, and I didn't hear it. It's off now. But it wasn't until I started hearing this noise that I started experiencing the extreme and significant denial of services and other forms of hacking that limited my use of this brand new, powerful smartphone that's on that has one of the latest operating systems, Android 7.0, with lots of protective and restrictive capability, much more than any other device I've ever had. And yet they're still able to do stuff like I have an app lock, and it's a pretty good one through Norton. And last night, as I was attempting to upload videos to YouTube, the hacker was disabling the Norton app lock. It would. I'd go to tap on the app, and it would flash. The app lock has stopped working. Tap to restart it, and then before I could even tap to restart it, I'd immediately gain access to that app without having to either use my fingerprint to override the app lock or to draw my pattern design to override the app lock. And they were showing me this capability. I wouldn't say that. And then I was so tired I didn't even make videos of it. But they were inducing the app to show that videos were being deleted from my what do you call those? What do they call those? When you my files, the videos that you watch the videos, and then you can elect to save them under file. And so and it looked like they did take some of the videos, but they had to keep conducting the function. Like at first, I wasn't missing any videos, and then I was so tired. I didn't think about it too much. I figured I'd deal with it when I woke up, and then this morning I realized there's two videos that I put in the watch later file on my YouTube account, and they're not there. So I remember them. I'm going to go back and retrieve them. But so they were showing me that they have remote control not only of my device but also the apps that I use. I'm sorry. It's I don't know why that term escapes me right now. What they call that. Anyway, the categories that file distinctions that you use to save different videos on YouTube too, so that you can watch them later. I don't know why I can't think of that right now. Anyway, all right. Sorry, I go off on tangents sometimes. It's all quiet now. Playlist. That's the name for a playlist. So, okay. Okay, so we were here at how does ISAC protect your privacy? And so, in addition, we do not permanently store the location information we receive with your software ID, Qualcomm hardware ID, which is built into your phone, or IP addresses, which would include your internet address by which you send and receive information on the internet. Nor do we attempt to personally identify ISAT users. They don't attempt to. So it doesn't mean that they don't. And they don't need to, because forwarding all of this information to an investigator or a law enforcement officer, either of which can be hackers, obtaining information for illegal purposes, they would be in the position to have to use it to identify a person associated with that device. And they're very good at that. And this is all the most important information any external user to your device needs to gain control of your device. So very tricky writing, is, as you can see, in very small print to discourage people from reading it. Your software ID, Qualcomm hardware ID, and IP address are maintained for a minimum necessary period of time for our business purposes, which is currently 30 days from receipt. Whoa. I mean, the first sentence makes it sound like they don't keep it for very long. They 30 days for their business purposes, which they've already explained what their business purposes can be in the paragraphs that I read earlier. When they said that right here in access and data integrity, if allowed by law, we reserve the right to request reimbursement of our reasonable costs associated with access requests. So they're in the business of selling this information. Very distinctive, powerful, and controlling information in reference to your device hardware, which is the physical functioning of it, as well as the software, which is the operational functioning of it. Okay, so I think that's enough. Let me see. Well, I mean, okay, this is interesting. Uh, oh, well, these two things are interesting. Sorry about that. Um, how does it improve location services? ISAP periodically downloads location and reference information um, from us. There it is. You hear it? I said that, and he turned it up. He can't possibly hear my speech. Sitting down here this far away from the ceiling and his floor. He's hearing it just like you're hearing it through my microphone. And he's seeing me read this as I'm reading it to you because he's able to see what's on my screen. I haven't figured that hack out yet, but I thought it had something to do with Google, but I've limited the built-in Google apps as much as possible to still allow the smartphone to use the internet normally if it wasn't hacked with a denial of service attack. But you know, I'm less confident that it's a hacking of the Google apps at this point. As the controlling apps for all the other apps in the device by the hacker. I believe it's, if there's a machine that's making that kind of noise up there in synchronization to my use of the internet and certain apps and functions, I don't see why they would need to hack my device via the built-in apps from Google. But I have experienced hacks from Google apps. That's one way that they do hack the device. But when they're dealing with equipment this professional, they're using direct radio signals to your device, and your device is constantly open and receptive to radio wave commands. Most people don't know that. It's set up for that, to do that, and you can't change that. That's part of its function. Only thing you can do is to grant your apps with judicial permissions, or cautioned or limited permissions to respond to those commands. But hacking on this order of professionalism rises above even the strictest of permission grants. So, as it says here, they periodically download, location and reference information, from them, or as it says, us, such as information regarding cellular towers and Wi-Fi hotspots in your region. This information may be combined with information from the sensors on your device, such as the gyroscope and accelerometer, to help your device determine its location and conserve battery power. But gyroscopes and accelerometers, those things can also sense your typing, and based on the sound of your typing and the position of your touch on the screen, they can help another app or a hacker manually determine what letters you're typing, for example. Um, so then it goes further to say what data is collected and how is it used. ISAT does not collect personally identifying information such as your name, email, or phone number. Well, they don't have to. The Stingray does that. But so it goes further to say, instead, ISAT may periodically send us an anonymous software ID. Okay. I guess that's meaning, one of your apps ID, but they're trying to say that the app's name is kept anonymous, but that's a trick because the software ID tells more about the app than the name of the app. So they don't have to conduct any additional research or discovery necessarily of what the ID number is attributed to in name form. The law enforcement can do that very easily. The ID will not only tell them the name of the app, but also the version of the app. It could tell them even more specifics, than that, for that matter, such as they could use that to get logged information that the app keeps in memory, and cache memory, for example, of your use of that app, which they can recover and see everything that you've done on that app, in the past. Or they could set up a circumstance in which they're monitoring your use of the app in real time, live, with that software ID. So, this all reads like it's been written by a law enforcement agency or an agent of the law enforcement agency. This does not read like a product or a service for the overall good and protection of the user. The only thing I've read so far that they note as an advantage to using this service is to conserve battery power. That can be done in so many other ways without subscribing to this service in addition to using your GPS service and antenna built into your device. It goes further to say anonymous software ID, a Calcon hardware ID, and certain location-related information, such as the location of your device and nearby cellular towers and Wi-Fi hotspots, signal strength information, time of day, associated longitude, latitude, altitude, and position and certainty, correctively location information. Okay. That's a lot of specific information that they could sell or forward to anyone conducting an investigation, for that matter, let alone law enforcement. It goes further to say, as with any internet communication, we also receive the IP address your device uses to send information. Okay, well, I know. IP address, that's your door for sending and receiving information on the internet. That's where the hackers hang out most of the time. is right at that IP address, and they pre-program um, virus and malware to upload and download, to download to your device and upload to your um, online accounts. When you upload something from your device, they program all that to happen right there at your IP address. And they can set it up to where it does it automatically and for a consistent amount of time without even having to manually do it. So, um, uh, anyway, going further, we may use the anonymous location information, software IDs, and IP addresses, and the other information we collect to help us protect, evaluate, and improve the performance of our systems. As permitted by law, we may also combine the data we collect through ISAT with other information we may have obtained. Oh, what is that? I mean, my God. Um, but notice they distinguish in that last sentence. We may use anonymous location information as one distinction, software ID as another distinction, which is not anonymous location information, IP address, which is not anonymous location information, and the other information we collect to help us protect, evaluate, and improve the performance of our systems. So, clearly they're all self-interest company or entity. And it's all about them and what serves their purpose and protection. And little to nothing about you and protecting your information relevant to the device and the apps that you use. And notice here the part where it says, I'm sorry, I'm doing this. I'm using my pen. It's tapping the upper border of the screen. Notice that it says and other information we collect to help us protect. If let's say that they decide to sell this information to someone who says they are a private investigator. Well, obviously, this company does its due diligence to protect itself in all respects possible. And so it's not to be assumed that they wouldn't try to set up a protection circumstance for forwarding this information to anyone, for that matter. And so what they're saying here is that not only can they forward your very important and powerful information about your devices and apps to almost anyone in general that's conducting some type of investigation against you, but then they can turn around and use this information in any way that they feel necessary without any limitations or restrictions to protect their own interests and make sure that they don't get in trouble or set themselves up for a lawsuit or a criminal suit. So right there, they're telling you in that statement that they're going to protect your interest before being honest with you. They're going to protect your interest before letting you know that there may have been a security breach. They're going to protect your interests before informing you of who they gave your information or forwarded your information or sold your information to or produced your information to regarding a warrant. Um, um, they may even use it to track you and conduct a surveillance on you themselves. And in finding something suspicious or that could be perceived as unlawful about your conduct with the device and or place of circumstance with the device, they could forward that to a law enforcement agency to protect their interests and to help incriminate you. That writing, protecting their interests without any specific of how and to what extent is an open loophole for them basically to do anything that they want with all of this very important, powerful, controlling information of your device and the programming that you use on the device. Okay, so I know that I've verbosely articulated the substantial conflict of interest in this policy for the user of this ISAT service. And so I've showed you here the address and how to get to it directly from your system's location service menu. And then there's also the address there. So you can study that more yourself. So I'm going to disagree. But here's the thing. If hackers, especially law enforcement, can assume control of your device independently of the service, then they can turn this on without you even knowing it. The fact that it's a low power location service, meaning that it doesn't require the full power that is normally rendered by this antenna here, GPS antenna. It means that if this can be turned on without your knowledge. So let's say that you have GPS off, because you could turn it off, right? They can access this and turn this on. How do I know that? Because I consulted the Google policy earlier today. For reasons not specific to learning how low power energy transmissions work. And so here under let's see, I believe it's under let's see, might be under cast media. No. Where is it? No. It was under. What was it? It was under. Oh. Um. Oh, come on. App reviews. Management. Listed apps. Uh. Oh, come on. Oof. Oh my God. I may have to stop this video and make a second half of it. Um, um, it was, uh, uh, yeah, this is it. Um, Let me see. Mm, okay, yeah, this is it. Um, um, okay. Okay. Under detects via Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or sound. To interact with places and set up devices. Nearby uses low power Bluetooth to detect broadcasts around your device. To share and collaborate in apps, Nearby uses Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and inaudible sound to detect devices around your device. Some people can hear a short buzz. Who knew? I never heard of such a thing. Nearby can use small amounts of Wi-Fi or mobile data to connect to Google and gain information about detected broadcasts or for shared apps. Um, the thing is, let me see, it does this automatically. When you have apps supported by Nearby installed on your device and you open an app that works with Nearby and you're near others who have that app open, your device will ask each of you whether you like to connect with each other. to see what supported apps are. Okay, so that would be the media sharing device. But it goes further to say, okay, when Nearby detects a broadcast link to an app or website, it shows you a notification. Unlike most notifications, Nearby notifications don't make noise or vibrate. They clear automatically, and they show below other notification types, which means that you could very easily miss the notification if you're busy or not paying attention to it. Um, um, uh, Even though it says it doesn't track or monitor you, um, it doesn't track or monitor or send personal information from your device. Nearby broadcasts are one way, like over the air TV or radio. Services that send nearby signals don't detect or get data from your device, but they send it to your device. Apps supported by Nearby share on remote servers when you give permission. The sharing devices don't connect directly. Okay. Um, uh, uh, okay. It works within about 100 feet of participating broadcasts and devices. When no places near you are sharing apps or websites with which you can interact, you won't get Nearby notifications or listings. So, again, hackers or law enforcement, um, they can predict your locations and set up a number of discrete, hard to recognize or to see instruments that give off a broadcast of a website or a link to malware or malware site or a virus site. Or it can just be sophisticated enough to pose as these signals suggesting the link to go to when and use the same authority and ability to turn these functions, the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, on without your knowledge, and then subsequently download something damaging, malicious, or virus onto your device. If you're reading this in general with general interpretation, because it's all written general, they're letting you know that your device has the ability to be engaged with and to receive at least information remotely without you even knowing it, just by being in certain places that have this kind of equipment broadcasting addresses and or information data to your device within 100 feet. What I'm not seeing for some reason, so it's saying here that you can turn Nearby notifications on or off at any time. Your device will list available nearby interactions in your settings app, even if you turn off notifications. But above that, it makes it clear that nearby notifications are silent and clear automatically. Um, um, Another thing too, it has the function of it says here under use nearby to interact with what surrounds you. Um, each on your own phones, you and your friends or coworkers can do things like play games or collaborate in apps. Um, but it also says above that, on your phone, you can do things like order a cafe, find items in a store, or set up a new device. So if you have Google Pay, for example, then what this is saying is if someone has hacked control of your device, they can make purchases with your device without you even knowing. Or the most significant threat here is you could set up a new device by basically transferring all the data about your apps and stored files onto another device. And you can do that without an internet connection. You just need to have a connection between the two devices via Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi antenna. And so someone could be basically copying every complete comprehensive amount of data on your device to basically create a clone, a complete clone of your device. And so could you imagine a hacker having all the information, every bit of it, basically a whole nother device set up in every way and inclusive of every amount of information on it? Then they would have a map, a schematic, of your entire device by which they would have privileged access to all your information and where it is and how to access it, and execute their attacks that way with a complete identical clone of your device and its setup. But I want to get to the part where it says that it turns it on automatically. Uh, um, um, okay. So here's the thing, this is how to set up and transfer everything from your device to another device. Notice how it says number 4, on your phone or tablet, you'll get a silent notification offering to set up the new device. A silent, well, if you're busy or not engaged with the screen, you get a silent one. To set up the new device, you have to tap the notification. Well, a hacker could have that much control at that point to tap it for you, and thereby get even more control by transferring everything on your phone to their mock phone. Setup can include things like installing an app, pairing by Bluetooth, or picking a password. Could you imagine that? They can change your passwords that way. They can pair to your Bluetooth and have control of your Bluetooth device that way. Or they could be listening in on you while you're using your Bluetooth, listening to music. Or in my instance, I have a Bluetooth keyboard that I use to type my passwords, because if you use a regular keyboard, my thinking was it would be less secure to do that, even if you opted to not allow the letters on the screen keyboard to pop up. I'm still not convinced that that's 100% effective, because it seems like even though I checked that characteristic of the keyboard, I can still see faint little background squares respond to the letters that I touch on the keyboard, the on-screen keyboard. And so that's why I've chosen in the past to use an external Bluetooth keyboard. But if they can hack your Bluetooth signal through this technology here, this nearby technology, then they can receive the information that you're typing on your Bluetooth keyboard being sent via Bluetooth to your device at the same time that you're receiving it, without you even knowing it. Especially given the fact that the Bluetooth is already on at that point, because you've turned it on to connect both the keyboard and the device. So yes, it's a convenience. This type of amazing form of communication between devices without the aid of a Wi-Fi signal or internet signal at all, for that matter. But there are some serious security breaches that are possible, and if you're understanding what I'm reading here to you, or you're interpreting as I'm interpreting what I'm reading, it's pretty clear by omission and by explanation of the functions with such broad ability but limited security precautions, that this can be very easily used to compromise your privacy and your command of your own device. Um, 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 uh, 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 I, yeah, here it is. If your Bluetooth or location are off, you won't get nearby notifications or listings. If you give an app permission to use nearby and Bluetooth is off, nearby will temporarily turn on Bluetooth to connect on its own. And it's not saying it'll only turn on for advertisement signals sent to your device. Like if you go to Best Buy, um, you know, they have this kind of technology set up there, so that if you have apps that use nearby functions, they're constantly sending you ads in the form of links, which you could choose um, um, to subsequently engage those links on the internet to go to those ads. But again, we're talking about hackers here. If anything or anyone can activate your Bluetooth antenna and or Wi-Fi antenna, they can have assured control more so than you of your device and your protected information on that device, up into their ability to secure it. And in a place like Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I live, a college town, that of the University of Michigan, as well as other universities here, the the technical know-how of this type of technology is generally high among students and people who live here. Hacking is rampant here. I experience it every day. And that's just because the intelligence level about science is higher in a college town than other metropolitan cities, ratio proportionate to the population within those distinctively separate cities. A college town in a larger metropolitan city, for example, that most likely has less students as well as advanced professionals in general, specific of the discipline of telecommunications and this kind of technology. So that's not to say that there's not a sufficient amount of professionals and students in big cities like Detroit, metropolitan hubs in states, but university atmospheres are fertile in study and experimentation of these kind of more advanced subjects that are outside the scope of the general practice of a layperson, such as myself. It goes on to say, if your device doesn't connect to the internet, you won't get nearby notifications or listings. If you give an app permission to use nearby, but Wi-Fi is off, nearby will temporarily turn on Wi-Fi to connect. And then, then it gets into tap and pay with your device and share content between Android devices with a related subcategory of this nearby technology called NFC, shared mobile data via Wi-Fi, hotspot, Bluetooth, USB. I mean, all of that is subject to the compromise of your device, its operation, and the apps on it, and the protected stored information that you keep on it. So All right. This is way longer than I wanted it to be. Oh, Lord, that's one of the largest I've ever made. So, um, hopefully you learned something, and um, it was able to command your attention um, to better inform you and educate you about um, your risk of being hacked and having important information on your hack device stolen from you or corrupted or copied, and or having a hacker assume more control of your device than you're able to maintain.